Member of the anti-poverty platform, Claire Elshot, says that a number of companies are targeting their workers. Minister of Justice holds meeting with Court of Guardianship and other entities. But first up, Member of Parliament Omar Artley wants to know what are the plans for the construction companies. Those are the headlines for Friday, April the 24th, 2020. This is SXM Daily News. I'm Valerie Van Putten. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. We have a packed newscast for you this evening, so let's get started. Member of Parliament Omar Artley had a number of questions for the Minister of Finance with regards to the stimulus and relief plan that was recently presented. The Member of Parliament wants to know what are the plans for the construction companies, which is one of our leading revenues, and what is the role of the central bank?
What is the plan for the construction companies? Construction will be one of our leading revenues because we expect tourism to go down. They employ sometimes up to hundreds of employees. I heard one of my other colleagues said this can result in loss of jobs. So what is the plan for the construction companies, being that they will probably be leading our GDP for the next 2 years? Also, was the central bank considered? What is the role of the central bank? I see that the central bank is sitting with their arms folded. In 2014, St. Martin received a government bond of 145 million. I see Curacao is trying to receive a bond of 100 million. What is the role of the central bank in our economy? Because that can be a way of assisting. The payment for the taxi drivers, the bus drivers, etc. Who are these payments going to? The license holder or the help chauffeurs? Many of the hardworking people are the help chauffeurs that pay monthly to the taxi license. So who are these, the payment going to? Question I would like to point to the Minister of VSI. What is your plan to tackle the rapid laying off that we are seeing? I do not agree with these companies laying off this rapidly. They did not even give the government a chance to assist. A whole countdown has been going on with the stimulus plan. And as for hotels, you're like number one on the list for recovery. And to see hotels laying people off is unacceptable. And I hope that the Minister of VSA can intervene in this. The medical and social aid that is a norm. How is this being handled within the ministry? Is this flowing smoothly? I hope that medical and social aids are not overlooked, although we are dealing with this COVID pandemic.
Member of Parliament in the opposition, Mrs. Sarah Westcott Williams, is also requesting answers on the stimulus plan. The Member of Parliament wants to know what has been put in place for the accountability and responsibility of these two agencies, and what type of protocols is or will be put in place for them, the government.
What has been put in place for the accountability and responsibility of these two agencies, and what kind of protocol is in place or will be put in place for them, the government? And when we say the government, who do we mean? The COM, one particular minister to make a decision? In the case of the St. Martin Training Foundation in particular, and the programs as part of the stimulus package that they will be so-called in charge of, they do the vetting, the administrating and the vetting. Then the government decides on who to give, or I guess not to give, and then the training foundation does the payout. Now, if we are going to the lengths to say that the training foundation has the experience, hence we have selected them, where does then the government comes in, and on the basis of what will the government then decide, make a decision on the individual applications? If the minister can answer how he sees that working and the reasons why this has been put in that fashion. Several speakers before me have addressed the following issues, and I just want to echo them. I believe that, like with the SZV part of the program, where for those employers who are not registered with SZV, the possibility for them to then enter the SZV employers portal and register there. Just like the possibility exists for those who are not registered or not up to date with the chamber to do so. I believe that our tax office, in the absence of persons having a crib number, should also offer that possibility.
And Member of Parliament Christopher Emmanuel spoke of the salary cut of civil servants. The Member of Parliament said that civil servants have a right to know, and they have a right to know now.
Civil servants have a right to know. And Mr. Chairman, they have a right to know now. Now, is that a discussion? Are we going to see salary cuts from every individual civil servant from scale 6 and up or scale 7 and up, whether it's going to be 5%, 10%, depending on the scale that you're in? This is no time to be shushing. They have a right to know. They have a right to know what is going to happen, because we see Aruba is doing it. And they are going to muster something around 91 million guilders. Florin, what is St. Martin going to do? And I have to agree with Member of Parliament Sarah Westcott Williams. It is time. It is time that members of Parliament, or the whole Parliament, is included in discussions. We have given the government enough leeway to do all that they are doing. We have given them enough time. I have had enough of it. All due respect to you, Mr. Chairman, I have no problem going through you. I have no problem sending it to you. I have no problem doing it at all. But Mr. Chairman, please, when 685 people vote for you and half of them are asking you questions and all you can say is, I don't know, then Mr. Chairman, do you want me to send you all those questions? I mean, Parliament cannot usurp their authority because of a state of emergency and just leave government run how they want to run, and Parliament is not being updated, not being informed, and don't know what is going on.
And still to come, man arrested for forging signature of the Chief of Police. You'll have the details to that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
GEBE has been faithfully serving the communities of St. Martin, powering your home and our economy. Come rain or shine, our qualified team of professionals are working hard 24 hours a day to provide you and your family with safe, reliable electricity and water. We use the latest technologies and test our products daily to maintain the highest international standards. Our friendly staff is always there to assist you, whether in person, over the phone, or online. We are committed to constantly improving our products and services, making them more efficient, effective, and environmentally friendly to serve you better today and our next generation of clients tomorrow. GEBE, powering a brighter future.
Our friend Megawati is here with tips to save you energy. 1. Turn your airco temperature up. 2. Use a ceiling fan instead. 3. Buy energy-saving products. Save some green with NVGEBE.
And as we continue now with the news, these two items from the police blotter. The Central Dispatch directed several police patrols to Sarasop Road on Wednesday, April the 22nd, 2020, to assist a community officer who was being threatened by a group of men. It turned out that the men who live in the area refused to comply with the measures issued by the Prime Minister to prevent further spread of the COVID-19 virus. The police were forced to remove the men from the area with a request to stay at home. The public of St. Martin are again being requested to adhere to the measures that have been issued by the Prime Minister. Public preventative measures. Group gatherings are strictly prohibited. Group gatherings of more than 5 persons on the public road in the vicinity of businesses, including restaurants, bars, gas stations, barbecues, etc., and other places is strictly prohibited and will be immediately dispersed. Non-compliance can lead to fines being issued or arrests. A man was arrested with the initials MRP on Thursday, April 23, 2020, around 1 p.m. for forgery. MRP was requested to report to the police station in Phillipsburg because he was suspected of having forged the signature of the police chief on a travel waiver. The suspect had confessed to forging the signature of the police chief, as his request was not being dealt with fast enough. After taking his statement, MRP received a hefty fine and was then sent home. The public should take note that forging any signature is a punishable act, and police will take action against anyone who engages in this type of criminal behavior. And member of the Anti-Poverty Platform, Mrs. Clay Elshot, says that a number of companies are targeting their workers. Mrs. Elshot says that one example is that workers at prime distributors has been forced into signing individual agreements giving up certain benefits. According to Mrs. Elshot, this is an illegal act.
Another company, Prime Distributors, has forced their workers into signing agreements, individual agreements, giving up rights to their salaries, to their vacations, etc. This, again, is an illegal act. Unilaterally, they are targeting the workers and forcing them into signing things. I would like to again explain to workers, whether you are unionized or not, do not sign anything before you have this legally checked with your union, if you are unionized, or if for you to have this checked with the Department of Labor. There are ways and means. You do not have to give up your rights as a worker because there is a pandemic. The responsibility of your employer still holds. At a given moment, this session today in Parliament, I hope it can bring clarity to the mass amount of workers that are going to be faced with one or the other illegal practice in the workforce. We have already seen in the past week the case with the atrium workers, which they are represented by a union, as to my understanding. And to my understanding, the union had contact with management and they claimed that they were going to retract the letters. I don't know if that has happened in the meantime. I do hope that the retraction took place and that the workers and their employers would be able to await the stimulus package.
And in this item from the Central Bank of Curaçao and St. Martin, the economic sacrifices of the lockdown are substantial for the countries of Curaçao and St. Martin. The Central Bank of Curaçao and St. Martin has revised downwards its economic outlook for 2020 for Curaçao and St. Martin. In the previous projection, the CBCS calculated the impact of the closure of the borders for commercial flights and maritime traffic. Meanwhile, in the new projection, the CBCS has included the effect of a lockdown. The economies of Curaçao and St. Martin were already affected by the closure of the borders, but have basically come to a standstill as a result of the lockdown. Given the substantial economic sacrifices of the lockdown, efforts should be made to reactivate the economy in a responsible yet swift manner, according to Dr. Jose Jardim, interim president of the CBCS. The CBCS further explains that the contraction in Curaçao is deeper than in St. Martin due to the higher inflation in Curaçao. In addition, before the COVID-19 crisis, the economy of St. Martin was projected to grow in 2020, while a contraction was forecasted for Curaçao. An inflation rate of 3.5% is projected for Curaçao, while the inflation rate of St. Martin will reach 2.3%. The high inflation in Curaçao is caused by, among other things, the surcharge that the government introduced on all products on March 1st and on April 1st. Moreover, in the outlook, it is assumed that the government will introduce the ABB on July the 1st, 2020. The increased inflation is, however, moderated by a strong decline in international crude oil prices. The higher inflation will reduce the purchasing power and worsen the country's competitiveness, Dr. Jardim states. St. Martin, by contrast, will benefit from the drop in international crude oil prices, leading to a lower inflation than in Curaçao. The interim president emphasizes, however, that the economic projections are currently surrounded by extreme uncertainties. Now, turning to our weather forecast for April the 24th, 2020. The Atlantic high pressure system will continue to dominate the weather pattern across the region. Therefore, mostly brisk easterly winds will persist and precipitation will be restricted during this forecast period. Seas are expected to gradually deteriorate and peak at 8 feet. Small craft operators and sea bathers should exercise caution. Now let's turn to your 3-day forecast. And still to come, Prime Minister reiterates the proper use of the masks and asks residents to cooperate with CPS. We'll have the details to that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
Make use of WIB mobile banking with easy access and direct usage of face recognition, PIN code, or fingerprint. Download WIB mobile banking app and make your transaction from anywhere at any time. For more information, visit wib-bank.net/quick-login.
And as we continue now, in her address on the program Prime Minister Talks, which aired on Thursday evening, April the 23rd, 2020, the Prime Minister Sylvia Jacobs spoke of several issues that are of importance to the community. With regard to the safety and proper use of masks and the testing in the community for COVID-19, the Prime Minister reiterated the proper use of the masks. She is also asking residents to cooperate with CPS, and when you are approached by members of CPS, to just be honest.
What I would like to reiterate, what I've seen here asked a lot, is the proper use of the masks. I think it's very, very important that we know we cannot reuse these paper masks over and over again. Once you've used it, you have to throw it away. You only remove it by taking the elastic from behind your ears. I see a lot of persons also making homemade masks. I've been made to understand that you can add coffee filters into it and then remove those, wash your cloth mask, put a new coffee filter, and then it's good to go. I know many are sewing, and I commend all the seamstresses out there who are making the local masks. Ensure that if you're using a cloth mask, that you still put some type of a filter inside. A medical professional even told me, fold a tissue and keep it in there. When it gets a little bit wet, you switch it. That's about the mask. I really would like the people of St. Martin, when you are approached by CPS and the outreach program, to be honest, say if you have the symptoms, and ensure that you are doing everything you can to ensure that you're not spreading the disease if you have the symptoms. This is the only way to do it. Stay at home. Many made fun of that, but that's the only way to stay away from the disease, is to stay at home, and anyone that is in your home that's going and coming, that they have proper hygiene once they re-enter the house. So clean their hands, take a shower, do all of that, keep their shoes outside before interacting with the family. The government is taking many measures so that you can be safe, and the longer we take to find persons who are sick and be able to contain it, the longer the measures will last. So I know others in the community have added to my statements that you should get tested, especially persons who have symptoms. If you don't have symptoms, it doesn't make any sense. Those that have symptoms, get tested as soon as possible within the first 5 days so that we can treat you and help you to get healthy quicker. All of the persons, and I want you to focus on this, all of the persons who have been helped through CPS are alive, are well, and are recovering or already recovered. The persons who have died are mainly persons who stayed at home while sick and allowed the sickness to overtake their bodies. And especially if you have other health issues, it's very difficult for the hospital to then help you after it has gone this far. So ensure that you're taking care of yourself, building your immune system, washing your hands often, and if you have to go outside, ensure that you are distanced properly, 2 meters from the different persons around you, and that you ask them to respect your space. Do what you have to do, get back in the house. We're all doing our best to work from home as much as possible. Make use of the delivery systems. I've asked more and more businesses to do that, and we will get back to a normal life sooner rather than later.
And still to come, students of the Coast Guard training are helping those in need. We'll have the details of that story when SXM Daily News returns. The Minister of Justice, the Honorable Anna Richardson, has been busy at work, and one of the many meetings that the minister hosted recently was with the Court of Guardianship, among other entities. The purpose of the meeting was to identify how they can strengthen the support and active protection of our children.
I'd like to share that last week, Wednesday, April 15th, I hosted a meeting with within Justice and also with external agencies, namely the Court of Guardianship, Acting Head Kimberly Brown, and Foundation Judicial Institute St. Martin, Cynthia Filmon, as well as external agencies, UNICEF Community Mobilizer, Ms. Suzette Moses Burton, and the Managing Director of the St. Martin Development Fund, Ms. Makishia Brooks. The purpose of our discussion was to identify how we can strengthen the support and active protection of our children. I believe this is a sector that needs a lot of attention, and so the ladies and I came together and we had quite a fruitful discussion, of which is going to continue this afternoon. I start by indicating that the protection of children is extremely important to me, and it's high on my priority list. And by extension to that, does the matter of domestic violence and spousal abuse. The police force has been receiving quite a number of calls with regards to issues surrounding this, and it is high on my agenda list, as well as members of the authority and forces, to address this. So this is not a matter that is going to be dealt with lightly going forward. We are going to take the proper steps necessary to protect the citizens of this country, both male, female, and children alike, the elderly, anywhere that abuse is being administered or being done in our society, it's going to be handled.
And as we end this edition of SXM Daily News for this evening, students of the Coast Guard training Basis Opleiding Kustwachter BOK are helping the ones in need in the coronavirus COVID-19 crisis. All the students were repatriated to their homeland when the governments announced their border shutdowns because of the threat of the coronavirus. Once at home, the youngsters volunteered to help their fellow citizens in need due to the crisis. A great number of volunteers are organizing good initiatives in Aruba, Curaçao, and St. Martin to help the citizens and animals that have been affected. The Coast Guard students are helping with, among other things, food packaging, distribution of the packages, and rescuing animals, stated a press release on Thursday. And just a reminder that SXM Daily News will not be aired on Monday, upcoming April 27th, as we will be observing King's Day, which is an official holiday on St. Martin. Do enjoy and have a safe, long weekend. I'm Valerie Van Putten. Just a reminder that this and other programs are available online. Simply log on to stmartinmediacenter.com for viewing. And on behalf of the SXM Daily News team, we thank you for watching and plan on meeting you right back here again on Tuesday.